Good morning and welcome to the Coach's Corner Football Show with Coach Jon Reutebuch on 93.7 FM The Mix. In the booth with me this morning, I have Coach Jon Reutebuch as well as Riley Price. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, obviously, Warriors traveled to Northridge last night in sectional 18 round 2 and unfortunately came up a little bit short. Let's go down to the beginning moments, the pregame, and start talking about, we were talking on air. It kind of seemed like the boys had some confidence, before the game.
Yeah, I mean, we felt good going in. We had a pretty good week of practice, and, we had played Northridge before earlier in the season, and the score is 14-7, and we felt like we left a few plays out on the field that we could have won that, and so we felt good. We knew our opponent, and we knew what we needed to do, and so going into the game, we felt good about it.
Obviously, game starts off, I believe the kickoff was deferred for you guys for the second half.
Yeah, I deferred because I won the toss again. No, it's kind of been a running joke with the coaches. I think I've won every toss that I've called this year, which is very unique.
That is pretty unique. Generally, odds are 50-50 at best.
Typically, apparently it's not, though, for me, because I have the same call every time. It's always tails.
Tails never fails.
Tails never fails, and it did not fail me this year. So
you want to give me some Powerball numbers here, or what?
Boy, if I could turn that into my own thing, I'd be doing that.
So you guys kick off and take me into that first defensive possession a little bit, Coach.
Well, it would, we got a good kickoff. I think we tackled them at the 27, which is a great goal. We want to inside the 30, and so we reached that and had a nice kickoff by Dane Sigler. And on defense, first play, Donovan Blair tips a pass, incomplete. Brandon Kelly, who we finally got back and made a big tackle for loss on the next play, and we're looking at third down, and we're fired up, and they are able to complete a pass out in the deeper flat and unfortunately get a first down, and they were able to keep the drive alive, and they started moving the ball on us, especially on the perimeter. They showed us something that they hadn't really shown this year. We have plenty of film on them, and they ran a little bit of speed option and things like that, and they were getting to us on the perimeter.
Yeah, it's always tough, especially when you have a running back, McLean Miller, back from Northridge, who did not play in the last game that we had, but we did see, I think Derek Sherwood was his name.
Yeah.
Sherwood,
he was a beast.
Yeah.
He had a lot of yards last night. Tough to bring down, tough runner.
Yeah, both the running backs are pretty solid, and then you throw in a quarterback that's very, very mobile, and he's a threat, and he had some good runs and scrambled, and their offensive line did a tremendous job because they had big holes to run through. As good as running backs as they are, it's not too hard when you have a nice hole there.
When you have a nice alley right in front of you.
Yes, and so their offensive line should get the most valuable player because they did a great job. And when their quarterback dropped back, he had all day. And that's hard for DBs to cover somebody that long.
And I will say, Braden Clark's pocket presence last night was pretty phenomenal. There was times where the Warriors were coming with pressure and were getting darn close to getting home, and he was always just seemed to be able to step up or step to the right and just kind of elude the pressure and kind of extend the play.
Yeah, that's the advantage of having a mobile quarterback. Our three main goals going into a game is to be physical. I think we were out physical last night. Not really sure why, but we just didn't have that same aggression that we've had in the past. And so that was one area that I think we were behind in. We had no turnovers. That I'm not really sure actually, but I'm pretty sure that's the only game all season we've not had at least one turnover.
Question.
I think that's right.
I think it's
Looking
right
back
too.
in my memory here.
It's a lockbox up there, I know, but
we've all slept since then.
Yes, exactly. And then staying away from the big mental errors, the penalties, and those kind of things. And we had some timely penalties, untimely penalties, and our execution just wasn't there. And it wasn't the same person each time. It was something different each time. And, offensively, it's like a choreographed dance. Everybody's got to be moving in unison and together, and we just didn't quite have that. There was something off, something amiss. We weren't able to get the ball to Donovan Blair as much as we wanted to. And then, we just couldn't get things going. We had a drive down the sideline, nice pass to Hunter Tinky that was ruled out of bounds. And, looking back at film, he was inbounds. So, you never know where those go. Obviously, we weren't stopping their offense. So I'm not sure it's going to make a difference in the final outcome, but definitely would make a difference in how the game went. And we had another drive, I would say about the 30 or so, and just couldn't finish it off or couldn't get it to the scoring position, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown. And so they ended up running 55 plays to our 42. So that's a lot more plays they ran. They never punted until the fourth quarter. They scored on 4th and 8, 11 seconds before halftime to really, put a dot on it. We were able to score 3 times in the fourth quarter. Tinky on a 15-yard run and Bontrager on a 35-yard pass from Shoemaker. We got to work our onside kicks quite a bit, and we got 2 out of 4. And
they were all, even the one that went out of bounds, if it bounces, a little bit more a yard further.
Half yard off. Half yard off.
And it's caught and recovered by the Warriors.
Yeah. And the other what we call surprise onside, that was close too. And so, that was very well executed and gave us an opportunity to work on those things. And that gave us an opportunity to put some scores on the board. Our message at halftime was to, forget the score. Go out and play your hearts out. Seniors, this is your last ride together. Make it count. That kind of thing. There's nothing we can do about the first half. It's over. And we're just going to have to play with heart and finish out this game like we want to finish it out.
I'm going to give you props, Riley. That's exactly what you said that his message at halftime would be.
It's almost like I've been doing this for a season now.
He's been around me long enough. He knows where I'm coming from.
I was going to say, maybe it was, middle school football and high school football and being around the program this year. It means you're really consistent there, Coach.
Maybe that's it. Consistent. I kind of like that word, being consistent and same message through and through. And so, I think that's a good thing.
So, we were talking at half, the boys were down, but it was nice to see in the second half, knowing that they're going to running clock, knowing that it's your last, hurrah for these seniors. And yet they came out and they still were able to execute and move the ball and at least have some good positive memories to send off on.
Yeah, and that first part was against, their number one. So, we were able to do that on that first drive and first defense. And so that felt good. It's great to get Tinky a touchdown, Bontrager a touchdown, some of the young guys getting involved there with Keim to center.
And that was an amazing catch by Cam.
Catch.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive. I tried to watch it as close as possible on film. It's so hard to tell, but he was completely outstretched. I don't know
horizontal.
how. Yeah, I don't know how you keep that ball in, but he made an amazing play, and it was a thrill on an evening where there wasn't a whole lot of thrills, but we had Shoemaker ended up being 6 for 19 for 97 yards and a touchdown to Bontrager. Bontrager had 3 receptions for 72 yards and that touchdown catch. Tinky had 6 rushes for 36 yards and a touchdown and 2 receptions. Should probably got the third one for 18 yards. And then Keim to center. That was their one play, 33 yards and a touchdown. So that was offensively. Some of the highlights defensively. Brandon Kelly, 6 tackles, 3 assists, 2 tackles for losses, and an interception. at the 15 that
he was rumbling and stumbling, but he was just a little
you
shy.
know, that couple of weeks of being out, that 3 weeks of being out really caught up to him. I think he rumbled about 78 yards, and then that
So close.
parachute came out, and he was gassed.
It reminds me of that, I think it was the fridge that when he came out the field, they always put the oxygen mask on him. That was that moment for him.
Yeah, earlier in the season or before, he sat out those games, he would have completed that for a touchdown. But, he has not been able to do those kind of things, and so that kind of caught up to him. But great interception, great thrill for him. So happy for him, too, to get a play like that and to play pretty well considering, he's been out.
Well, and he misses last week with an injury, and that's already a hard thing for a senior to go through because it may be your last game. So not only did he get to come back and play, he got to make a huge play and take that with him for the rest of his life.
He had a nice run there at the end, too, where he totally changed direction on the field and just improvised and made a big run out of it. So, he's got some memories, too. Peyton Sewell, 3 tackles, 2 assists. Bontrager and Tinky both had 4 tackles, and Barrett Kelly had 3 tackles and assists. So, that was some of the defensive highlights. And then I got to point out Dane Sigler. He went 2 for 2 on PATs. That was a struggle at the beginning of the season. Now he's Mr. Automatic when it comes to PATs. 5 for 5 against Riley, and he's kind of anchored that down. The onside kick execution. It's amazing how it doesn't work in practice, but it's well executed in a game. And 2 for 4 is pretty good, and those 2 were really close. And then his kickoff, he put it down, I believe, around the 9, and our coverage, it was a good enough kick. Our coverage can get down there and pin him inside the 30. So he had a really good game, in the second round of the sectional.
And he's kind of progressed through the year, stronger leg, and even he was doing that dual duty with soccer, and it seemed like after soccer was in, he took even another step, and if I'm correct, he's a junior this year.
Correct.
And he should be back next year for the Warriors.
He will be back next year. He doesn't have a choice. He's coming back. No,
we'll corner him after the show.
No, Dane came to me at the end of school last year and said, "Hey, I'd be interested in kicking for you guys." And I said, "Okay, let's bring you on out and see what you can do." And it's been a work in progress. As you said, he's a soccer player. And at the last game of their soccer season against West Noble in the sectional, he hurt his leg, and he had some hairline fractures and things like that. So he was out for a couple weeks, and we all of a sudden we got great news. On his checkup, everything was good. He was good to go, and he was at practice the next day.
Fast healer too.
And that's Wolverine style, and he came out and. That couple of weeks probably gave his leg a chance to revive itself, too, because you're doing double duty soccer and football. And it seemed like from that point on, he was locked in, ready to go. And I have to give a shout out to Kyle Clevenger, former kicker of ours that I coached a long time ago.
Former teammate of ours.
Yep. I figured you guys would recognize that name. And he's been coming out periodically and working with Dane and Reed and even Lucas Linder when he's had to be the backup. So, you got to give him a shout out and all his help with those guys. And, it really helped Dane quite a bit.
I'm just saying, Kyle did break the school record, if memory serves, for field goals made or points scored. Don't know if his little brother broke it.
No. 8 field goals in a season. That's still the Wawasee record.
That's impressive for a high school football team.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, number one, your offense has got to get you in those positions, but number two, you got to execute those kicks, and you know how that goes on every level. You got one shot. And they only notice when you're not making them. And,
exactly.
And so, he had a great kicking career here at Wawasee, and for him to pass that on to younger guys, I mean, I've had him for a kicking camp and, periodically helping out, like his brother and things like that, and now helping out some of our other kids, and that's been invaluable.
Well, obviously, a tough loss for the Warriors last night going against number 8 in 4A in Northridge. Final score was Northridge 49, Wawasee 0. Just kind of seemed like the chip that was, falling our side last week, just kind of went the other way.
Yeah, it did. The first time we played them, too, I mean, yeah, they were missing their running back, and they were missing a really good lineman they had, but we were missing people, too. I mean, our sophomore quarterback had to start. Shoemaker had gotten hurt in the Concord game. Both our running backs were banged up. We were down to our third and fourth string running back, and we even used Tinky in the backfield some. So we were banged up at that point in time, too. So, going in, we felt like, we're good to go. And getting Brandon Kelly back was huge for us. But you know what? That was a machine. They offensively were physically imposing. And, if we're not at the top of our game, and I say this all the time for every NLC game that we play, and you got to include our out-of-conference games since both those teams were undefeated through the regular season, you got to be physical. You got to be on top of your game, and if you're not, you're going to get beat. And last night was where that happened. We for whatever reason, I don't know if we were nervous for the moment, if we were still on a high from the Riley game or what. We tried to caution against that and make sure we were focused. But, you have to give credit to Northridge. They're a solid football team, and that's going to be one heck of a game between Northwood and Northridge. It was 24-21 the last time they played Northridge. So that should be a great sectional championship game.
And I will say, up in the press box, there was some excited people up there that they're going to get a rematch at that game. So I think that one's going to be a high-profile sectional.
Yeah, that's developed into quite the rivalry between those two schools, and that comes with success and close games. And so it'll be very interesting to see how that transpires.
They'll have to name that like the Battle of the North or something like that.
Seriously.
Who's going to be king of the North?
Well, that wraps up our conversation about Wawasee's loss last night to Northridge in round 2 of sectionals. Coming up, we will talk about some season stats. We'll also have a couple guests on our show in Nick Feldman and Caydence Chupp. And then we will round it off by talking about our seniors and what we will be doing in the offseason. This is the Coach's Corner Football Show on 93.7 FM The Mix. And welcome back to the Coach's Corner Football Show on 93.7 FM The Mix. Now, Coach, at the season end, there's always a point, it's sad in that, but it's always nice to kind of sit there and reflect about the season. Warriors ended up 2-9, but that record really does not tell the story of this team.
No, it doesn't. And, when you reach the end of the season, then you start looking back and seeing what you accomplished and what you didn't accomplish and where you need to improve and who you're getting back and who you're losing and all those things. And there's two parts of the football season I do not like, and equipment pickup day is number one. The other one's picture day. I can't stand picture day, but it's a necessary evil, so we got to live with that. But yeah, turning in equipment is a sad day because you're losing a group of boys that you've worked with for the most part 4 years, seen them grow, see them develop. And
you guys spend a lot of time together. I mean, you got stuff on the off season, you have stuff during season. I mean, you guys have spent sometimes, more time than they have with their families over the last 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And that starts in August and goes all the way through October. And so, we definitely spend a lot of time with these boys and invest a lot of time with them, and they invest a lot of time with us. So it's a bittersweet moment. A lot of tears, a lot of hugs last night, and on Monday, we'll have some more of that senior last lap and the passing of the football from the seniors to the young man.
And as someone that's been a part of that tradition, that is I still vividly remember taking that lap.
Yeah,
and it's one of those things that sticks with you long after football.
Sure. Your experiences and your memories, and these guys got a lot of great ones. And that ceremonial pass of the football to the underclassmen, that, hey, I think you're going to be a great one. I believe in you. Now go work hard and get it, because you won't believe how fast it is till you get to this point and you're reflecting back. And so, you always tell seniors it's going to go fast, you make sure that you soak it up and do your very, very best. But, I think they realized after football season's over that, wow, that was, even though it seemed like there was dog days in the summer and things like that, that went really, really fast. And so, kind of a bittersweet end to our season, but as you said, not typical of what our team is about with our record. We had needless to say, a very competitive schedule. We our out-of-conference teams were undefeated on the regular season. Tippy Valley, unfortunately, ran into Chittard, number one ranked team in 3A, and they finished the season at 9-1, and that was a close competitive game for us. West Noble, undefeated on the season, 9-0, conference champs. They lost a tight game to Knox last night, and they finished the season at 10-1, and that was a competitive game for us too. Then Goshen. Goshen was the Warhawk Trophy game that we won back the Warhawk Trophy, and so that was one of our goals on the season, so that was great. And then we played Plymouth, and Plymouth ended up the season at 2-8. That was one that we look back at and say, what happened there? We should have won that game. We should have beat them. Had we played with the same intensity that we had in some of those later games against some better teams, we would have won that going away. And so that was one that we felt like got away from us. And then we went into Concord, and I have talked about that being a, kind of a perfect storm. We're coming off a Plymouth game that the players were very distraught. They knew they let one slip away. Our quarterback gets hurt on the third play of the game. We get a player thrown out of the game. We had some guys banged up, and we were shuffling linemen and things like that, and it was just a perfect storm. And that was the only game all season that I felt like we weren't competitive. We didn't go out there. And so, we challenged our kids after that. We decided to flush that. Where are we going to go from here? And they responded greatly. Concord's right now at 6-4, and they'll be playing Mishawaka for the sectional championship. Northridge, team that we played last night, lost to them 14-7 here, and we had opportunities to win that game. They're 9-2 now. Very strong team. Warsaw, 9-1, conference champs, beat Carroll last night.
And that was a big win for them, too.
Huge win, because they got stomped last year, and, of course, Carroll went to the state. And so that's a big win for Bart Curtis's program. Played them tough, 22-15. I think that opened some people's eyes, those back-to-back games, how well we played. And then Northwood, who's 9-2, playing for the sectional championship with Northridge, lost to them 38-21. And then we had Mishawaka conference champs. They are now at 8-2, and they'll be playing Concord for the sectional championship. Lost to them 41-22. And then South Bend Riley, first sectional win since 2012. They were 8-1. And conference champs, NIC, small school division. And then, of course, last night we played against Northridge, which we've already mentioned. So combined record 63-27. I venture to say I would like to see toughness of schedule better than that. And
I mean, that's pretty good.
In northern Indiana. I mean, it's pretty tough. And so a lot of compliments to our program and our players and how hard they play. And I think the comments that I heard a lot of is that's not a typical 1-8 team going into the sectional. And the people that know football and had seen us play knew we had a good shot against Riley just because of our schedule and how we played against those teams. 4 conference champs, not including Tippy Valley because they're not in the conference this year, but if they were, they would have won it. 2 undefeated teams, 8 teams with winning record, we were able to play pretty good defense through that stretch. Held 7 teams to less than 30 points. So, 20s, teens, that area. So, pretty good performance on the season by our defense. Offensively, we had pretty good balance. I think we ended the season with 1,913 yards, passing 159 per game, 18 touchdowns. Rushing was 1,160 yards, around 100 per game, 12 touchdowns. And then on defense, we gave up under 100 yards passing per game. One of the better pass defenses
that's pretty,
around.
especially with. I mean, I know we play, teams like Warsaw and Mishawaka, but there's a lot of pass-heavy teams that we play.
Yeah, Northwood being one of them, and so that was the strength of our team as our DBs, and I think you look at Hunter Tinky versus Tuggle in the Northwood game to give you a good idea of how good our pass defense was. We had 26 turnovers that we created on the season, 15 sacks, 47 tackles for losses. 21 fumble recoveries, 21 forced fumbles, and 7 interceptions. So pretty good stats overall on their defense. Special teams, 3 for 4 and field goals. Reed Reidenbach kicked all of those, and he was 4 for 6 on PAT. Dane, we mentioned, he really came into his own at the end, had some trouble with the PATs in the beginning of the season, but finished very strong to where, we expected it to go through. Reed averaged about 30.5 yards punt. He had a 66-yard long punt. Tinky
66 yards.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Tinky, substitute punter, averaged 25 yards a punt and 61-yard long. And then kickoff return, Tinky and Bontrager, when they got a chance, I think we went about 5 games where they might have had 2 chances because the kickers were putting it in the end zone.
Every game was in the back.
Yeah, and so 21.8 yard average kickoff return for Tinky and 24.8 for Bontrager. Tinky's long is 51 yards and Bontrager's 44 yards. And then Bontrager was Mr. Steady on punt return. No turnovers, no muffs, perfect on the season. He had a long of 38 yards. So, some seniors there that are going to be sorely missed in the special teams game as well. But we do get Dane and Reed back. So overall, you're looking at a season much improved for our program. We, made a lot of progress in a lot of areas, and you hope that the example the seniors set rubs off on the underclassmen, and we go to work right as soon as the season's over. About where we're going, what we're doing. We'll have exit interviews, those kind of things.
What all entails? You've mentioned that before. What all is an exit interview, and what all do those kind of do for your program?
Well, you communicate with them about their season, and then you communicate about what you project for them for the next season and what they need to do between now and then. Because if you wait for football season to get ready for it,
they're going to wait for football season.
Yeah, you're already lost. You're already behind. So, it's what everybody else is doing.
Come on. 15 to 18-year-old boys are super proactive, and they make sure that they get off the couch every day and they put the video games down. And,
that's why we have to remind them every day to eat, sleep, and hydrate. Do those basic things that are going to help you be a good athlete and do well. So, those exit interviews are very important, and their roles are going to change from one year to the next. And some of them might make position changes. Some might need to get stronger. Our strength training program is huge. I mean, the progress made in there portrays directly on the field. You talk about having them play other sports, be competitive. Competition makes you better. So if you don't have a sport, wrestle, definitely run track. Track is one that we definitely push. If they're already involved in another sport, then go do that the best of your ability. That's going to make you a better football player. If you are playing hard in basketball season, that's plyometrics, or you're a swimmer. That's you're trimming your body down and cardio and building that upper body strength and legs and everything. I mean, every sport can give you something, and that competitiveness throughout. I don't care if it's playing checkers. Being competitive and going at something's just going to make you better. So those are some of the things that we go over and talk about. We do have limited contact practices, but we try to stay away from that too much in the wintertime. They need a break away from it. And frankly, if we are pushing our kids well enough, a lot of them are involved in other sports anyway. Some of them will go off and play in OPS, 7-on-7 leagues, those kind of things. And then in the spring, when it starts to get a little nicer out, we'll get out the footballs and start throwing it around and working on lineman technique and kicking a little bit, just to start to get into that flow again. And then, of course, summer comes, we're hitting it ground zero, day one.
Boom, boom, boom. It's going to be August before you know it.
That's right. So that's pretty much how it goes for us when the season's over.
Well, Coach, obviously the tough loss last night. We went through some stats, and I think that kind of better portrays, how much better this team really was than the records. What are some final things that you can say to kind of wrap up, the season stats in the Northridge game?
As far as the season and the season stats, I mean, it's obvious we were way more productive on offense. We were very active, and I think most teams would say hard hitting on defense.
Definitely didn't lose the edge because, that was something that, the team was known for last year, being tough-nosed and that definitely translated to this year,
Absolutely.
too.
We made great gains last year about being physical. I mean, that was something that we had to make that transition to, and we established that last year, and these guys took it to the next level. And then, the offense came around quite a bit. We have a new offense and a new defense this season, so really a first time for both of those this year for our kids, and they adapted very well. And the productivity is obvious, too, on offense and defense. So that made a huge difference. And then, I think our special teams is pretty solid. I don't think that hurt us. I don't recall giving up a kickoff return or a punt return for a touchdown. And, we were able to come up with some plays on special teams to help us.
It's one of those things. Special teams is so important that if it goes well, you should never hear about it.
Yeah. Well, and there's no more exciting play than special teams play on a big return, a block kick, those kind of things. And so those could be momentum swings, and you want to be solid in those areas. So, looking back on the season, I would say this program has definitely taken the next step. I was probably a little more positive thinking that we would get to this step earlier. But, we had COVID that second and third year and, getting the numbers up. I mean, we still only had 11 seniors. I'll talk about those guys in a little bit, but 10 seniors that were able to play throughout the season, both sides of the ball, given their all, special teams, all those things. And you talk about all in. Those 10 guys are all in, and every one of them will be missed sorely. And unfortunately for one senior, he wasn't able to play that much this year. Injury bug just kept nagging. So that's probably, a bummer. It is a bummer for him. But, we'll miss these guys. These seniors are great kids, great individuals, and really sold out and gave their commitment to the football program.
Well, that concludes our conversation about some of the season stats. In our next segment, we will talk with guest Nick Feldman and Caydence Chupp, and then we will finish off by talking about those 11 seniors and then discuss the offseason. This is the Coach's Corner Football Show on 93.7 FM The Mix. And welcome back to the Coach's Corner Football Show on 93.7 FM The Mix. Now, Coach, we have a couple guests on our show this morning. The first one, Nick Feldman. How you doing this morning, Nick?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well.
Hey, Nick is our one of our JV coaches, and he's a position coach, outside linebackers, and works with tight ends as well. And I believe this is your third year teaching?
Yep.
Third year with the program. Nick, we'd always be remiss if we don't have you start off by introducing your family.
Yep. So I originally am from about the Valley area, went to, Fort Wayne, got my degree there, came back, and I have a wife. I now have a son who's about a year and a half old. And
go ahead and give their names. Give them a shout out.
Wife, her name's Brenna, and my son's name is Preston. And in the spring, we are going to be expecting our second son. So super excited about that.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Tippy Valley grad.
Yep. Don't hold it against me.
We'll try not to too hard. Now, you said you worked with outside linebackers. What all does that entail on a day-to-day, practice basis?
So for outside linebackers, the biggest thing that we have to make sure that we are getting our kids to do every single week is we have to make sure we are maintaining that outside leverage. We have to make sure we're turning it into where all the other guys are. We cannot get beat outside. And so I think that's something that I did see that was pretty successful throughout the season. And watching film and staying on the sidelines on Friday was, our outsides, they would take everything on with the outside arm and leg free, trying to turn it in and being as aggressive as we can. Because our outsides, they're not going to be the biggest guy. However, you're going to have some 200-plus pound linemen coming at you full steam. So you have to be very aggressive. You cannot just stand there and take it. And I think they do that pretty well. That's the big thing.
I would have to agree, and I have to give you guys props. Throughout the year, the linebacker play just seemed to get a little bit better and a little bit better. It makes me think of Schmucker. At the beginning of the year, we'd call his name here and there for a tackle, but it seemed at the end of the year he was in just about every tackle.
Yeah, for sure. He really stepped it up throughout the season, and he's one of those players that if you stand there and tell him exactly what he's doing wrong, you can see the gears turn, and he can, okay, I know what I need to do now, and the very next play, he will go out and he will do it right. Same thing with Peyton Sewell. They want to learn. That is the best part about my outside linebackers is they want to learn. And so they want to hear what they're doing wrong so that they can go back in and they can correct it next time.
All right, Nick, let's talk about your JV role and some challenges that you have with JV games on a Saturday. Because being a veteran coach, I've cut my teeth on the JV before, and I know what it is. But why don't you share with people what it is for you?
Yeah, so I love coaching JV. It's some of the most fun you can have, and this year, unfortunately, we went 3-6. Went back and looked at our records. We went 3-6. A lot of hard-fought battles throughout the entire season. This year was a little bit different. We didn't have another JV coach for some of the games, so we had other coaches step up and help me out whenever possible, and that was, hats off to those guys. They didn't have to wake up on Saturday mornings and go to JV games and get back at 1 o'clock, and they did, and so I really appreciate everything that they did this year. But for JV, like I said, 3-6. With JV, it's all about getting them ready for that next step. And on Friday nights with so many guys going, both ways, if one person goes down, we have to be ready to throw some of our JV guys in there. And then that gives us an opportunity to look at, okay, who's next up on our list? Who can we now see? And because of that, almost everybody on JV gets to play. Almost every single game, everyone gets to play. And so I appreciate that.
And it's one of those things. It's JV is kind of like that depth builder because you have your ones and they're going to be the names that are called out on Friday nights. But if any of those go down, it's next man up. And it seems like JV has always been kind of that the test and find out. I remember back when Riley and I were playing JV, there was a lot of, hey, this may not be your natural position, but we want to give you a look out there real quick. Go out there and go play tight end, go play defensive end, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, and, that came up at the end of the year when the freshmen were completely done, and we had some freshmen come up with us at JV level, and they, I said, I want to see what you can do here. I want to see what you can do here. And I believe every single person that I put into that position, I do believe that they really tried their hardest to do the best with what they had at that time.
JV is really where you get to cut your teeth as a coach because you are making the decisions. You are coming up with things on the fly a lot of times. So you got to figure things out and, figure out who you got and then try to plug them in. And Nick coaches the defense on JV, and he's had different coaches, as he mentioned, come and help on Saturdays to coach the offense. Coach Pinion, Coach Moore, and Coach Glon have all taken turns, and so he's had to work with somebody different every Saturday, but he's the mainstay there every Saturday, and he's done a great job, and it's great not only for the kids' development, but also his own development as a coach. So it's great situation.
And it's one of those things, too, that, with cases like Brandon Kelly being out, it's next man up for varsity. That kind of changes your team every week, right? I mean, you kind of have a new nucleus every Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, really, the big one was, last Mishawaka week when we had a few guys out that, we had, Stahl step up, we had Benji Brace step up, we had Devin Sewell step up, and then you had several weeks where you had Luke Kimes step up. And so, yeah, it 100% changes the dynamic, and those guys have the ability to just, do whatever I need of them and do it to the best of their ability.
And some of those names you just dropped are guys that at the end of the season appeared on varsity due to injuries or whatever. And so, again, it's a huge developmental stage. Guys getting experience on the field, playing, and coaches being able to evaluate them, with film today. A lot of times we have film on a JV game we can watch, and we always get feedback from Coach Feldman and the other coaches about how kids are doing and what's happening with them and if they're ready, to maybe take a look at for the next level and those kind of things. So it's invaluable for a program.
Well, Nick, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Now let's go to our second guest, Caydence. Well, welcome to the booth, Caydence. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm a senior here at Wawasee High School. I've been with the football team for 4 years managing. 3 years been the head manager.
Wow. So what all goes into that job? Because, Riley and I never got the opportunity to, really be a part of another program. It was always we were playing it or we had people helping us, but what all does that job entail? I mean, it seems like a big job.
It is a huge job, and it's a unsung hero job because you're doing a lot of things behind the scenes, and players don't always get it. Our kids though are very respectful of Caydence, and she demands that, and it's great,
as she should.
Yes, and they only notice when something's not there. And so, she does an excellent job. I'm going to let her introduce her family, by the way. I'm so old. I had Caydence' mom in school, so that's how old I am. So, it's great to see, kid you had.
It comes full circle there,
yeah,
Coach.
it comes full circle, and Caydence is a great kid, and that's a, direct correlation to her mom. So, Caydence, go ahead and introduce your family.
My mom, Andrea, my stepdad, Chuck, my little sister, Olivia, and my stepsister, Allison, which she's a senior here this year.
So you talked about your family a little bit, but I do want to ask you a question. You have a Louisville shirt on.
Yeah.
Is that just a school you like, or is that your future plans?
No, that's just a school I like.
Just a school you like. I see.
So let's get into that. What are you looking at after high school? Because you are a senior.
Okay, so I've been accepted to almost all the colleges I've applied to this year. But
and that's no small feat. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
to get into one college is impressive, but multiple that's really where it's at.
yeah, I was really shocked. But I'm looking at PFW or IUSB. I don't want to go to a big school my first couple years.
And what would you like to study when you go?
English education.
Well, I have an ENG degree, but it's the different one, the engineering side, and that's one thing that I can say that I am absolutely terrible at. So I commend you for that.
She's going to correct your grammar, and she's going to fix your mistakes. And
Well, there's going to be a lot of them if you ever review any of my paperwork. So, Caydence, tell me what being a part of this football program for the last 4 years has meant to you.
It's been time consuming, but it's also made an impact on my life. I can't imagine my life without Wawasee football.
she's been excellent. As she mentioned, she's been the head manager for the last 3 years. Came in as a freshman, and usually kids are kind of shy and kind of, you got to tell me what to do and not really with it. She was not. She jumped right into it, and she was ready to go, and the leadership quality came natural for her. She was part of being a leader is helping those figure out what to do, where to go, and she's really good at that. And then, also leading by example and getting out there and getting your hands dirty as well, not just pointing directions and things like that. And, somebody that takes care of things without me having to say it. I mean, I could tell her something one time and that's it. It's taken care of. And, you can't put a price on that. And, I've been lucky enough to have her for 4 years, and it's going to be a big void, losing our senior football players, but also Caydence, because that's a comfort that you have as a head coach that, all that stuff,
all the stuff behind the scenes is taken care of.
Yeah, all that logistics of equipment and uniforms and all those things is taken care of. And so, she's training the younger ones, but it's definitely going to be different without having her around. And the rapport that she has with the coaches and the players is fantastic. And she's going to be sorely missed. I guarantee you.
So you said you've been with the program for 4 years. Out of those 4 years, is there one moment that you can say this was the best? This was my favorite moment of being part of the program.
I'd probably have to say all of the team dinners or all the times before games in the locker rooms. Those times are just unmatched because all the guys, they're just so themselves. And it's just so fun to see them all like that.
And it's kind of funny, every team takes on a new mentality, a new kind of culture. And to be a part of that, it's got to be really cool just to, you said be themselves, but it's kind of that thing where you're about to go to battle, you're about to go play your sport, and that comforting of, hey, I have everything I need, and I know I can go out and execute. That's got to be a huge feeling for the boys.
Oh, yeah, it is. And you can tell, there's games where you can tell when they are on top of their game and when they're kind of just not feeling, And I have so many videos in my camera roll of them just dancing and having fun, like just themselves.
We need to put her on the position of a media guide too, because she definitely gets pictures and things like that going on. But it's great to see too. I don't notice it usually, but when I'm watching film, we have a big play. There's one of the biggest cheerleaders right there, jumping up and down, chasing the play, all kinds of things. So, she's true blue Wawasee, or I should say true green Wawasee, and lives and breathes our football program. She's not just the manager. She's a big part of our program. So it's been great to have her.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning, Caydence. In our next segment, we will discuss and wrap up the rest of this year and start talking about next year. This is the Coach's Corner Football Show on 93.7 FM, The Mix. And welcome back to the Coach's Corner Football Show with Coach Jon Reutebuch on 93.7 FM, The Mix. Now, Coach, we talked about last night's game. We talked about the season stats. We had some great guest interviewers. Now let's turn to our seniors. You said we had 11 seniors. Let's go down through and talk to me a little bit about each one of them.
Okay. Yeah, as I mentioned before, we're going to miss these guys and fun kids to be around. And, this group knew how to have fun and then knew how to focus. And this group was also very good at getting the team ready to play and having the pulse of the team and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and start with our quarterback, Mason Shoemaker. Really came into his own this season, from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, making better decisions. He definitely was, a guy that made the most of his senior opportunity. He was positive all the time, always getting guys up and reminding them of what they needed to do, and focus on the next game, the next play, kind of a cheerleader out there. And that's what you need from your quarterback. He ended up the season in 11 games because he had to sit out the Northridge the first time, 122 at 228 for 53% and 1,560 yards, 15 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. In the beginning of the season, he was making some of those throws that he probably shouldn't make. And by the end of the season, he was eliminating those. And, last night we didn't have any turnovers and played really within himself. And that comes from a lot of hard work and listening to your coaches. And I'll be honest, we weren't fully sold that he would be our quarterback of the future when he was a freshman. But he definitely put himself in great position by hard work and dedication to his craft to be that guy for us, and we're going to miss him at the quarterback position.
And he took a big step, too, from last year to this year, too. Last year there was some times where he – he was under pressure. He'd be rolling out, and he'd throw kind of an errant ball. And this year, there wasn't that, the decision-making was significantly improved.
Yeah, and that's what you want to see. You want to see improvement from year to year and even within the season, and I think we saw that. So.
And his deep ball got a lot better this year.
Yeah.
I mean, he put some on the money.
Yeah, he had some nice throws, and, he made some plays, and he's one of those guys that's deceptively I don't want to say fast because he's not fast, but it seems like they never get a clear hit on him. He somehow slips people all the time, and it's like, how did he get there, And I don't know if it's a changeup, like an off-speed pitch, that they can't focus in on him. But, he made the most of his opportunities in scrambling and carries as well. So his leadership, his effort, his hard work is going to be sorely missed. Next senior I'll talk about is Hunter Tinkey. I think there's no doubt he's our best player in our team.
And coming off of a winning, I believe it was the Goshen News Player of the Week, too.
Absolutely. He was actually nominated twice. This time he was a resounding winner, and that's great. That's a great accolade for him and finally being recognized for his performance against Riley. But he's been doing it for us all season long. He's been doing it for 3 years. As a sophomore, he was thrust into a starting role as corner and a receiver as well. And, you talk about a guy that's dedicated in the weight room, in his craft. He's a track kid, so he brings speed to it. And, we always tease him. He's always hurt. He always has something hurt. But when the lights come on and the whistle blows, there's no bigger gamer than Hunter Tinkey.
It's one of those games, are you hurt, are you injured? And it seems like he's always like, oh, no, I'm good to go.
Yeah.
I'll live through this. Absolutely.
He just turns it on. Two-way player, a returner for us. I mean, on multiple special teams. He's a multiple threat. He's a threat rushing the ball as well as receiving the ball. He is just one of those guys that we're gonna miss immensely because he is a weapon on offense and widely recognized amongst our opponents as being such. Finished the year 77 rushes for 622 yards. That's a little over 8 yards a carry and 7 touchdowns. He had 42 receptions, 561 yards. 13.3 per catch and 3 touchdowns there. So he had 10 touchdowns on the season, over 1,000 yards in rushing and receiving. And defensively, I mean, he did I think the big point for him was the defense on Tuggle, who's going to Georgia. Maybe had one big play on him. Otherwise, he was all over him the whole game. And I think that opened some people's eyes in his ability. Had 32 tackles, a tackle for a loss, 2 interceptions, and 1 forced fumble, and countless knockdowns of deep balls that, he doesn't make the play. Those are touchdowns. And so just an all-around great player, great kid, dedicated, committed, and he's going to be sorely missed as well. Derek Bontrager. Derek Bontrager just started playing football for the first time, I believe, his 8th grade year. And so picking it up, just an all-around good athlete, playmaker, I would call him. Again, he's on every special team. He's a kickoff returner, punt returner. He's always the first guy down on kickoff coverage. He is a gunner on punt team. He's a safety that comes downhill like a banshee in the alley. and he's able to make picks and plays in the secondary. He's never comes off the field, and he never runs out of energy. He's like the Energizer Bunny.
He just keeps going and going and going.
Exactly. I mean, he is a heck of a player. And he's going to be sorely missed as well. He ended up the season with 50 receptions, 593 yards, 11.8 yards per catch, and 8 touchdowns. Last I checked, he was, if not the leading reception leader in the conference, but one of really close. And so that's pretty impressive considering some of the receiver talent in our conference. Next guy, Donovan Blair. Is a broken record, two-way player, tight end, defensive end, on several special teams. One of the things about Donovan is he is somebody that teams had to recognize, a force to be reckoned with. How are we going to match up against him as a tight end, because he's a big target and has great hands. And then defensively, he's very active, always coming, and you got to figure on him, and he jumps out on film. I've had other coaches tell me that number 80, he's a pretty good ball player, and
not only just for rushing the quarterback, he was a great run stopper too on defensive end. He can set the edge quickly.
Absolutely, he is probably what we want in an anchor defensive end, and so he's probably our prototypical guy. Donovan, I teased him last night. I said, never thought I'd say this, but I'm going to miss you talking all the time. He never stops talking. It's fun. He's a great kid to be around, and we're definitely going to miss him. His stats on the season, he had 16 receptions for 63 yards. 18 receptions for 303 yards, 16.8 yards per catch, and a touchdown. And then he also ran the ball in our jack package, where he is the downhill, get us a first down, plunge it in the end zone kind of guy. He had 16 rushes for 63 yards, almost 4 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns there. So, on defense, from a defensive line position, 48 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. Very, very active, and he did that in 10 games as well. Next guy, Brandon Kelly. Leading tackler on the team, despite missing 2 games, played in 9 games. He definitely got people's attention on film. Hard hitter. If you recall, Warsaw game, lifting their fullback off his feet. One of those plays where the whole crowd goes, ooh. He definitely high intensity type of player. He had 77 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, interception that had he played
darn close.
he probably scored that as a touchdown. 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, and a sack. He also rotated in on offense for us, and was a pretty good back. I would definitely say his highlight for the season was the 85-yard touchdown run right before halftime against Goshen, which was huge for us at the time. And I'll be honest, we didn't know he had that in him, that he could make it all the way down the sideline.
He put his arm down and just went.
Yes, and that was one that looked like it was going to be a short gain and bounced off, and there he goes. He had 60 rushes for 290 yards, about 4.8 yards per carry, and the aforementioned touchdown. And he had several receptions, too, on screens and things like that. So he's going to be missed. Hunter Kunish, you want to talk about a lunch pail guy, a guy that just doesn't say much, just comes to work every day. He's our nose. He played several positions. I think throughout his career he played every position on the line. He just works hard, communicates well with the coaches as far as what needs to go on offensively or what's going on defensively. Definitely an unsung hero in there. You guys know more than most people, linemen don't get enough credit. And
what?
Yeah, they don't get enough credit. But, he was the mainstay on the offensive line. He was the senior returning lineman, and he held it together on both sides of the ball for us, and irreplaceable. You work in the trenches on both sides of the ball, you're putting in some work. And Here's one for you: a nose guard with an interception on the season. How often do you ever
I
hear
was
that?
just about to say,
Not
I was like,
very
and
often.
I can't wait to hear a stat that he got a pick this year. So
And a very athletic pick, might I add. He had to kind of lay out for that one, too. And so that was pretty impressive. A lineman that feels like he probably could have been a skill guy if he just got the chance, right?
It's just proving it. You know what I mean?
He's just showing, look at my hands, coach.
I told you.
Yes, I could do it. So, he had a great season, and it's really hard for a guy to get great stats.
I mean, you're a lineman.
Yeah,
Your job is to either block it. The goal is to either not get stats or have no flags, and
Exactly.
that's your good stats as a lineman.
Yeah. So, I mean, he was definitely our main lineman and played a lot of guard, which is a key part, a lot of polling, things like that.
Especially in this offense.
Yes, absolutely. And, he had 12 tackles, a sack, 4 tackles for loss, and an interception, which is, I'm sure, a highlight he'll never forget. Peyton Sewell, you want to talk about a little tenacious bulldog. No rip on him, but he is not the most gifted physically. He's not very tall. He's not very big. He's not very fast. Doesn't jump all that well. But I'll take him on my team any day.
He has that warrior mentality of, I'm going to do my job and I'm going to do it as efficiently as possible.
And he does not go away. He is persistent. You want to talk about a guy that made the most of everything he had, a senior that just unleashed it this season. He had 6 fumble recoveries on the season. That's a pretty good season. I got to check our stats, but I'm pretty sure that's pretty close to a record, if not a record. Played multiple positions for us. He's an outside linebacker, but there were times when we had to move him to inside linebacker because of injuries and things like that. On offense, he played wing. He even played tight end for a game. He played running back, and then of course he's on every special team as well. And he had a fumble recovery for a touchdown, which is a highlight I'm sure he'll never forget against Warsaw, which is our rival. So you never forget how your performances against those teams. Offensive stats, he rotated in. Doesn't have a lot of blazing, impressive stats, but he was a steady worker, blocking, getting a few yards here and there. Again, a lunch pail type of guy. Defensively, his stats are really, really good. 74 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 6 fumble recoveries, and a defensive touchdown. A great kid, fun kid. We're going to miss him too, and really a kid that came into his own his senior year. And on the other side, outside linebacker Dawson Schmucker, first year as a full-time starter. He changed positions from corner to safety to outside linebacker. Those
are 3 big changes, too.
Major changes. I mean, you go from corner where you're mostly coverage, maybe a little outside support there, to safety where you got coverage and run support heavily and you got a lot of space to cover, to outside linebacker you're keeping contained and you're mixing it up with the big boys from time to time. And once in a while you got to do some pass coverage as well. And again, he had a great senior year, progressed. You mentioned earlier about, from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. By the end of the season, our linebacking core was pretty solid. And, that comes from coaching and those guys being coachable and getting better and better. Dawson had 53 tackles on the season. Again, he was on a lot of special teams, coverage units, punt team, those kind of things. Lucas Linder, third in his class. Academically.
I never knew that.
Yeah, oh yeah. A very, very smart and intelligent young man. Another track kid. Great cover corner. He has the speed to keep up with people. He's long and lanky. That helps with those big, tall receivers. He's always on the field too. Special teams. He rotated in at receiver. We used to tease him. He didn't have quite the hands. That's why he's a great defensive back. That's where defensive backs find themselves, is because they can't catch a
about
ball.
His oldest time there,
Yeah,
Coach.
it is. It is. But you know what? He proved this year he can catch a ball, and he made some pretty impressive catches throughout the season. Sometimes even getting hit as he was catching it, and just a solid DB for us. he had 23 tackles on the season and numerous bat down passes, numerous where the quarterback just had to throw it away because he was blanketed all over him. And so he's going to be sorely missed. One of those kids that you'd let your daughter date. I mean, it's, you don't want anybody dating your daughter, right? But he is just outstanding, and he is good in the classroom as he is out on the competition field, and he's going to be sorely missed too. And that guy's going to be highly successful at whatever he does. Last one, or actually I got two more. Weston DeLong. Weston returned to football. He played in middle school. He started out his freshman year and had a rough time with some injuries and stuff and dropped out of football. And his classmates talked him into coming back out this year. Just to give you a little profile, Weston's 6'7", about 235 pounds, basketball player. And we're glad he came back, and he was as emotional as the guys that had played for 4 years last night. I think the camaraderie and the teammates and all those memories you build with football, that I don't know that there's anything that equals that, and he felt that last night. He played tackle for us. Last night we even used him a little bit at defensive end, but great size, great feet. Had he played 4 years, there'd be a lot of colleges wanting him to play for them. Just the stature alone, and they know they could put the muscle on you and get you to that point. He still may have some colleges looking at him just from being 6'7", 235.
I mean, that's pretty rare.
Yeah, you can't teach size, and so he's got good feet. He's a good athlete. I mean, he's a basketball player, and so it'll be interesting to see which direction he goes. And again, he's a lineman, so you don't have blazing stats, but he started every game all season long. That tells you something for a kid that just came out of senior
That's
year.
a great stats for no lineman, seriously.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, they get beat up every single play, and to make it game after game, that's a huge
I don't
achievement.
think he missed a play on offense.
That's incredible.
Right.
Impressive.
So there's your stat on him. And so, and then Trey Rollins. Unfortunately for Trey, the injury bug, I don't know if you guys recall the story on Trey, his battle with cancer and car accidents last year. And then this year, he had a shoulder issue. He's got a rib issue. Just nagging injuries for him. Barely got to see the field. But I'll tell you what, amazing to even be on the team. Amazing comeback, and big tears for him too last night. And he's played with these guys all the way through, and he's had to overcome a lot of obstacles. And another guy that you wish, it'd be great if you had one more year. One more year. So that's our 11 seniors. We need to figure out a way to have more seniors like these guys. You got somebody that goes through your program for 4 years, they're going to be pretty good football players. And these guys leave no doubt. I mean, every guy that I read off is a solid individual, committed individual, did a lot for us.
And helping build this program.
Absolutely. And it's a void that's got to be filled. It's got to be filled by the current juniors and sophomores next year if we hope to continue what we established this year as being a very competitive team, a hard-hitting physical team, and a team that you better bring it, because we're going to come after you and we're going to play you hard for 4 quarters.
Well, thank you so much, Coach, for joining us this Saturday and every Saturday through the year. And congratulations on a season that had some hard points, but definitely had a lot of good positive things come out. And looking forward to the off season here and what we get to see next August. Hopefully. Few more seniors, and just like this year, a team grows a little bit, and then we can take another step forward.
That sounds good. I want to thank you guys for all season coverage and doing these interviews and doing the games, and Jeremy Van Loo for all the production behind the scenes that he does for us, and the kids involved in the pregame interviews, Zach Bowen, everybody in this program. Wawasee's unique in having something like this, an opportunity for kids to learn and to get our information and positive things that Wawasee's doing, Wawasee athletes, and just really appreciate all your efforts. And Coach's Corner is a fun thing to do, and gives us a chance to brag on the kids in our program, and that's a positive impact. Also want to thank all our community members that supported those kids throughout the season with meals and cheering them on and being at games and commenting positive feedback to the kids and all those things. We have a great community that supports our programs, and we really appreciate that as well.
Well, thank you so much, Coach. And that is a wrap for this week's Coach's Corner football show with Coach Jon Reutebuch. Catch up on previous Coach's Corner shows on demand at YouTube on CPG-TV. This is the Coach's Corner football show on 93.7 FM The Mix.